privileged I feel to be here in this market with a discovery and money in the bank. And for all those doomsayers out there, there is no better time to explore than now. But the reason I'm here is to talk about Mallee Bull, the discovery that we have in Cobar. But first, a quick disclaimer, it's a little bit unusual. And then I'll talk about Peel mining. Peel started in 2007, about a month or two before the GFC. We have a market cap now of $55 million, $7 million in the bank, and a further 3.3 promised by CBH. The key point there is that the directors hold 21% and the top 20 investors hold 59% of the company. Our business model is very simple. Look for undervalued projects in New South Wales that haven't been drilled like they've been drilled in Western Australia and drill them. How we do it is we have a very low cash burn, $200,000 per quarter, and if you rate us against any other company on the register, we're quite down the bottom. We have a small, efficient, dynamic team that comes and goes as we need, and we have a focus on putting our money in the ground. This photo is a photo of the board and the technical team. The main man to look at there is the guy on the right, Rob Tyson, and our chairman, Simon Hadfield, in the middle in the stripes. If anyone's seen any of Rob's presentations, that old ute has been talked about many times. Graham, the people that are absent, you can see them listed on the right-hand side. I don't want to bore you too much. I know you've had a meal and you've listened hard. Basically, Peel Mining has a portfolio of projects across Australia and New Zealand. We have resources in WA, 500,000 ounces at 0.9 grams per tonne. We've got a small high-grade tungsten deposit at Tunga. But the two projects you see in bold there, Mallee Bull and the Cobar Superbasin, are what we're going to try and hang our hat on. If anyone's interested in any of the other projects, come and see me after the meeting. The reason I'm here is this release here, 6th of May 2013. High-grade copper intersect. It's not true width, but it's true copper. This is the start of that hole, and as you can see as we move through, that yellow stuff's pure Chalcopyrite. And it keeps going. Why did we come to the Cobar Basin? Well, because it was underexplored, there was open ground, and it has a $50 billion metal inventory. There's a lot of money that's come out of that ground there, and it's a major province in Australia. As you can see, if you look on the left-hand side there, most of the money comes out of this little area here. It's on the eastern side of the Superbasin. That's where the major structures are, and it's where the major thinking is being focused. Where Mallee Bull sits is right here, in the middle of the Cobar Superbasin. And that's why the ground was open. If you look at the original EL, pegged in 2009, EL 7461, it was pegged as open ground by Rob. The project had within it an ML, which was a polymetallic, which is the Mayday deposit. It had historical workings at the Gilgunya goldfield. It had historical workings at the 4 Mile goldfield. It also had the same age rock equivalents to the geology in Cobar that was yielding all of that copper and gold. There was a location of a high strain zone at the nose of an anticline. There was a juxtaposition between deep water sediments and shallow water sediments. There was adjacent historic workings, which I've talked about, favourable trap site and a high strain zone, and that's what you need. You look at this picture is of the 4 Mile area, which is now known as Mallee Bull. The little white dots on the photo on the left are all historic workings, dug by hand, timber cut by hand, around the 1900s, and a lot of hard work went there. About 3,000 to 4,000 ounces worth of gold was pulled out of there in high surface orogenic type gold, and not much is known in the records. We had the opportunity, we started drilling under Mayday when we first discovered Mallee Bull, and then MMG approached us to share some costs of a VTEM survey. We were warned by our geophysicist, Steve Collins, not to do VTEM, but we did it anyway because it was cheap and we had no money. So, as you can see, the picture on the left is a discrete EM anomaly. The photo on the right, which is overlapping the other one, is magnetics, and the bottom circle you can see is a discrete magnetic anomaly. So we had historic workings, something that was conductive, something that was magnetic, and the right geology. Little picture at the top, that circle there is called G5. That's a historic magnetic anomaly which we now call Butcher's Dog, which I'll talk about later. So the first round of drilling we did, we had an opal miner's RAB rig, which we dragged over the top of all of these anomalies down to about 60 metres. We found nothing. We then did a fixed loop EM survey over the surface, and we refined the target somewhat, and we started RC drilling and we got a sniff. But if there's any geologists out there and you get a sniff, sulphide's conductive, it's fine, black looking, you start to get a bit jaded. So I spoke to Rob, I said, look, we've got a sniff, it's looking okay, let's persist. So the third round of drilling, was the RC drilling that we did. Hole 6 was pulled up short, it hit target depth with nothing in it, and hole 7 was the hole that gave us some reasonably interesting intercepts. The one thing we did here was we did downhole EM, and downhole EM further refined the location of the target to be off hole, to be deeper, and to the north, just where we finished hole 6. It's a schematic section of it. As you can see, as we're working our way deeper and deeper. We originally tried to go shallower to find some sort of oxide zone. Then we went deeper to try and find some zone. And then we went deeper again, and the geophysics really did help us. So thanks, Steve Collins. As you can see here, we started to get pretty excited. We extended from the downhole EM hole 6 with a diamond tail, and about 15 metres from where we stopped, we got 10 metres at 20% combined lead zinc. And we started to get a little bit more excited. There's a photo of some of the core Chalcopyrite Pyrrhotite, which is below the massive sulphide. And if you look at that section at the very top is hole 6 that we extended with a diamond tail. Now this is a more modern version of the magnetic data that we've modelled, but it also shows the EM plates on the right hand side. This is where a lot of our drilling in Mallee Bull exists, and this is what's called Butcher's Dog, which was G5. There's a fine, faint line there. You can see down there. That's one hole that I convinced Rob to drill. Unfortunately, we deviated from the vertical hole and we missed the target. But the one thing we got was disseminated pyrrhotite, which excited us. The 10 metres at 20% combined lead zinc brought on a guy with silver hair in the back there. Ian Plimer, Gernot Lloydel, Stephen Dennis and Visco Salevich from CVH. They came, we talked to a number of companies, but these guys were prepared to go 50-50 on a deal. We needed money, and that was the cheapest money around. So we did a deal with CVH over the project for effectively 50% of the project. A lot of people scorned us, but when you're a junior, you've got to survive. So the key terms of the agreement was basically 3 stages, a total of $8.33 million to earn 50%. We've now spent stage 1, stage 2, and CVH have indicated they're happy to proceed with stage 3, which we're about to start. The main thing here is that Peel remain the operator. So a bit of geology. I was told this wasn't an investors talk, so I thought I'd change it around a bit. The shallow water and deep water sediments that I alluded to before are curious. Both above and below Mallee Bull we have the picture that you see on the right, deep water turbidite sequence. But within the middle of where the ore body basically sits, we've got lumps of limestone, we've got lumps of volcanics, we've got lumps of reworked sediments that have just fallen down some slope from a shallow water environment to a deep water environment. So we're reasonably keen to support the idea that we have a growth fault. Now the mineralisation sits below a super mature sandstone, which has somehow blobbed in on top of all of this stuff and come from a long way away. As soon as we get below that sandstone, we start to get into mineralisation. Although it does come above and below and within, but in no scale like we're seeing in some of the releases. We generally have a massive sulphide on top of a stringer zone of chalcopyrite with massive chalcopyrite. So there's some examples of the mass flow unit. You can see a lump of a crinoid there, a fossil, shallow water, reworked, highly silicified sediments, and volcanics, and more reworked silicified sediments. So it looks like this stuff's fallen off a cliff. Keep a dark sandstone I'm showing here purely because I wanted to show the pyrrhotite spotting that we're seeing at the Butcher's Dog deposit on the right. As we approach mineralisation, the more distal zone we see is pyrrhotite spotting, and that's all we got at Butcher's Dog, and we haven't drilled that target any further. The contact between the allochthonous units, or the stuff that's come from somewhere else, can be seen quite clearly in the photo on the right, on the left, sorry. In midsection, if you look at the massive sulphide, it's mainly pyrite dominated. It does have about 2 grams gold throughout. It seems like the gold's reasonably fine-grained and within the pyrite lattice as electrum. It then zones down to a chalcopyrite, pyrite-dominated section. And at the very base of that, you can see those units there, silicified siltstones, which they talk about at CSA called Elven. We then go into a chloride-altered sediment, and we go into our classic stringer zone, chalcopyrite, pyrite, quartz-dominated. The deeper we're going, that stringer zone changes into more massive chalcopyrite and pyrrhotite. Some of those results there, you can see 22% copper, are very similar to what QTS North at CSA in Cobar are getting. Because I thought this was an investor's presentation, I threw some geology in, but hey, got to mix it up. There's some pretty pictures of some mineralogy there for the geologists in the field. I'm sure there's plenty of there. And here's some examples of some of the sphalerite and galena mineralisation that's going through some of those silicified sediments. We get 2 types of chlorite, just like at CSA. We get black chlorite and green chlorite, which is high temperature and low temperature. Whether they're an evolving fluid or whether they're 2 separate fluids, we don't know. Our geologist Bob Brown is doing a PhD on the project, and I'm sure he'll be focusing on that. There's some more pictures from up at the higher levels. That's from hole 6 where the 20% lead zinc combined was. Some lovely flow-banded sort of sphalerite, pyrite, galena with rip-up class of chloride-altered sediments within it. Diagenetic, early stage pyrite that was forming in the beginning. And there's another photo of chalcopyrite, pyrrhotite, highly silicified siltstones, which they call Elven at CSA. So when you look at Cobar-style, there'll be plenty of people here who can argue forever and academically about what is Cobar-style. I think in essence Cobar-style is a variant of VMS and structural geology. When you look at Mallee Bull, we've drilled down to there. It's polymetallic, it's close to a major structure, it's shear hosted, it's strongly leached, it's got chlorite and silica alteration, it's got facies and rock competency contrasts, big solid rocks and soft squishy rocks. It's a moderate to high strain zone. It has a short strike length. It's deep and narrow widths, and they generally occur in either camps or stacks, depending on which side of the school you talk about. We're down about that level now, and we hope that we can chase it further. When we first went into the Cobar Superbasin, we had 1 EL and 1 ML. We now have over 3,000 square kilometres of ELs, which we've picked up in various ways. High number of walk-up drill targets. And we're using Mallee Bull to leverage our exploration strategies. So we're currently about to start some more diagnostic work on Mallee Bull to work out why and how we can find more of them around and in our other tenements. So moving right along, and I know Julian said not to focus on Sandy Creek, but I'd like to talk to Sandy Creek because I'm excited about it. Sandy Creek is 20 kilometres north of Mallee Bull. It's basically an analogue of Mallee Bull. It has the same stratigraphy as Mallee Bull. It has a low resistivity, high chargeability IP anomaly, a discrete magnetic feature. It has a strong late-time conductive downhole EM anomaly. It has historic drill testing, which has not tested the centre of the downhole EM plate as modelled. And it has mineralisation at the edges of that plate. Look at this picture here. You can see to the north of Mallee Bull by 20 k's. The stratigraphy is very similar. Same setting, slight variation. The core is a little bit tarnished. It's the same stuff that we're hitting around the edges of Mallee Bull. It is a mag low. We do have a mag low and a mag high coincident with around Mallee Bull. And if you look at this picture, we've remodelled the raw downhole EM data, and it looks like the best plate that fits is actually a folded plate. That green rectangle that you can see there is the size of Mallee Bull. The only drill holes that have intersected that plate are there and there. This whole area is untested and it's in the middle of the plate. So that's where we hope to drill very soon. I've probably rushed through it, but I think you've probably had enough. And if there's any questions, I'd like to invite them.
Fantastic.